Hi everyone, so today we're going to do this wonderful passage by Nietzsche. Nietzsche is one of the great stylists in any language, right? He wrote originally in German. This is a translation. As always, right, what we do is we establish the context. Now, we're going to talk about this. We're going to go through this a lot. This is one of Nietzsche's most famous ideas. It's the idea that you and I are what he calls the last men or the ultimate men. And this is not a compliment. This is actually really a negative condemnation of you and I. And you can see this, right? Look at what he says here. The last men will still quarrel. But no, he doesn't say fight. But they soon make up. Otherwise, indigestion would result. And he means that, right? He means that the last man is so committed to being on easy street that they don't want to ruffle any feathers, right? So you and I, right? Even if you and I disagreed with someone, rather than get into a quarrel with them or a fight with them, we might just say, look, live and let live. There's no disputing taste. When in Rome, do as the Romans. This whole idea, right, that you and I must not judge others, right? So this is, for Nietzsche, extremely negative because he just thinks that you and I are evading the sort of existential problems that Kierkegaard has introduced. And then, same thing here, right? You and I might think, he says, they have their little pleasure for the day. And no, right, he's being critical of us, the little pleasure, and their little pleasure for the night, right? So you and I, we want our various pleasures, but only in little doses. Why? Because we respect our health, right? So just as we respect our indigestion, so we have our health, right? So you and I are living a kind of pure animal life, right? We're a bit like cats, right? Cats want to be fed, they want to be warm, and that's about it. That's the ultimate man, and this is who Zarathustra is against. And thus, here ended Zarathustra's first discourse. And he calls it a prologue. Okay, so this is actually a good example. This part is not that important. Doesn't tell us a great deal, right? But then he says, look, he's stopped his discourse. Why? For at this point, the shouting and mirth of the crowd interrupted him. So what you see is that Zarathustra, Nietzsche, bringing the truth, the condemnation of the ultimate man, is being mocked. Right? So you and I think one of the things that's sort of very prominent for you and I is our self-satisfaction. We really think we're the bee's knees, right? We think we live in the healthiest, cleanest, most technologically advanced, most sort of beautiful and sophisticated of all times in all of history. And that's what Nietzsche is very critical of, right? That sort of self-satisfaction, this sort of claim that you and I no longer have the existential to be worried about. And so, right, this is actually something we're going to have to get sort of used to, right? So you notice what happens here, that he's giving you the voice of the crowd, right? Give us this ultimate man, O Zarathustra. Make us into this ultimate man. You can have the Superman. So again, another crucial idea. We're going to spend a lot of time on this. The Superman or the Overman is Nietzsche's idea of the human being and the kind of humans, the sort of spiritual existential attitude of the Overman who will cancel out the ultimate man, right? The ultimate man, you and I, we need to be reformed. We need to take things more seriously. And then he says, and all the people, they laughed and shouted. So again, what's important here is Zarathustra, the truth, Nietzsche's truth, is being mocked. And now, note what happens. Zarathustra grew sad. Now we're getting a quotation. Now this is the voice of Zarathustra. They do not understand me. I am not the mouth for these ears. And now it's very interesting. Look what he says, and this can take us a little bit back to Kierkegaard. He says, perhaps I lived too long in the mountains, right? We're going to want to know when we go through Nietzsche, as with Kierkegaard, we're going to know what does the mountain stand for. So one thing it must presumably stand for is hierarchy. But you're also going to see that Nietzsche often talks about the cleanliness of the air. He means, and a certain kind of isolation, a certain isolation from the ultimate man. And he says, perhaps I've lived in the mountains too long. I have listened to the trees and the streams. And that's a very beautiful, right? Because right here we are, we live in a very much an age where people are worried about the environment, but you and I are pretty alienated, right? From mountains, trees, and streams. We certainly don't listen to them, right? You and I, right? We live in this very technological world, not so much a natural world. And then he says, so look, the problem is, I now speak to people as though they are goats. So this is his key sort of claim, right? That this whole indigestion thing, that you and I have kind of reduced ourselves. The ultimate man is reduced to a certain almost biological sensibility. And so now he says, unmoved is my soul and bright as the mountains. There's the emphasis again on the mountain. The mountain what? In the morning, right? So morning, what does the morning sort of stand for? Hope, lightness, bright, new beginnings, new possibilities. And so he's sort of saying, right, that his message is optimistic, it's hopeful. But they, you and I, the last men, we think him cold and a mocker of you and I. Right? We don't realize, he says, Nietzsche, that I am here to help you. And then, ends on a very dark note. They look at me and they laugh, so we mock him, but, it is not a pleasant laughter. Why? We hate him. There is ice in their laughter. So it's not merely that we so it's not really that we tolerate Zarathustra, right? We actually have a real deep hatred of this idea that we need to be corrected, right? The complacent person, you might think the complacent person, the person on the easy street, is very easygoing, but actually, right, he's wanting to sort of argue that you and I are full of pride and vanity, aggression and hatred of that which would correct us, right? That's because, right, we think we're the bee's knees. So, okay, I just wanted to show you that you got to kind of really get inside this text, pull it apart, think about these allusions to the mountains. Just don't worry about the Superman and the ultimate men, because I'm going to explain all that to you. Okay, but again, just trying to give you a sense about how to do these exegeses. All right, see ya. Bye bye.